Let me tell you something today that the enemy doesn't want you to know. You are not ordinary. You're not just a name on a list, a face in the crowd, or a voice in the noise. You are a walking, breathing, atmosphere-shifting force. When you step into a room, you don't come in alone. You carry power, you carry purpose, and you carry a presence that breaks atmospheres. You are a thermostat, not a thermometer. You don't just measure the environment, you set it. You don't just enter situations, you transform them. When you show up, heaven backs you up. When you walk in, darkness backs off. You are a carrier of divine presence, and hell is nervous when you open your eyes in the morning. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the atmosphere shift even before you said a word? That's not coincidence. That's not random energy, that's presence. And you carry it. Some people walk into a room and bring tension, fear, or distraction. But you walk in, and something divine walks in with you. You don't just take up space. You transform it. You're not just another face in the crowd, not just another voice echoing the noise. You were crafted, handpicked, and marked to carry something sacred, something that carries weight, something that heaven recognizes and hell dreads. You are not ordinary. You're an atmosphere shifter. When you step into your home, the peace of God steps in with you. When you enter a meeting, clarity and confidence break through the confusion. When you show up in a hospital room, hope begins to rise. When you walk through a storm, the storm has to bow to the power you bring with you. You are the evidence of divine disruption. You are the proof that light still walks into darkness and refuses to back down. You don't just reflect the environment you're in, you redefine it. That's why people are drawn to you. That's why some are intimidated by you. That's why others can't quite explain what it is about you. They just know something feels different when you're around. And let me tell you this, that difference is not ego, not hype, not personality. That difference is the weight you carry. You walk in with oil. You walk in with fire. You walk in with authority. You don't need applause to validate it or a platform to prove it. Your presence alone carries power. See, ordinary people adjust to the atmosphere. They blend in, they adapt, they try to find their place in the system. But those who carry a kingdom presence are not shaped by the atmosphere, they shape the atmosphere. They bring change without asking for permission. They bring alignment to disorder. They bring a higher standard. They bring a voice that silences fear. They carry something that shifts people from anxiety into faith, from doubt into truth, from confusion into clarity. You were not meant to be passive. You were not meant to be silenced, overlooked, or diluted. There's a reason your presence bothers small spirits. There's a reason insecurity tries to make you question yourself. It's because what you carry exposes what others are hiding. It awakens what others have buried. It convicts what others have compromised. You are not just walking, you are advancing something bigger than yourself. When you walk into your job, you're not there just to work. You're there to bring order, to raise standards, to carry excellence that convicts laziness. When you walk into your family, you're not there just to coexist. You're there to break cycles, to cancel generational curses, to speak life where death has been breeding. When you step onto the streets, into the school, or behind closed doors, your presence speaks even when you're silent. It shifts rooms because you're not just another person. You are a walking solution. You don't carry presence for attention. You carry presence for transformation. It's not about being seen, it's about shifting what's been tolerated for too long. You bring a new temperature. You don't wait for the fire, you bring it with you. And when people ask what changed, the answer will be simple. You showed up. Do you realize how powerful it is to stop reacting to the environment around you and start regulating it? Because you weren't born to just survive whatever mood, pressure, or fear is present. You were born to lead it, to shift it, to take dominion over it. Most people live like thermometers. They reflect whatever's happening around them. If it's stressful, they become stressed. If it's chaotic, they become confused. If everyone's negative, they start speaking death over their own purpose. But you are not most people. You were never called to simply mirror the atmosphere. You were called to master it. You are the thermostat. You set the tone. You shift the vibe. You dictate the temperature of the room, not the other way around. And that's why pressure comes for you so hard. Because the enemy knows that if you ever tap into the authority inside you, you'll stop letting rooms influence you and start influencing the rooms. You'll stop being thrown off by moods and start throwing strongholds down. You'll stop checking the spiritual climate and start changing it. That's the power of someone who understands their role. They don't let culture mold them. They mold culture. They don't wait for someone else to speak hope. They become hope. When you enter an environment full of fear, you bring calm. When you walk into a space clouded with doubt, you speak truth that cuts through the fog. You are not at the mercy of circumstances. You carry influence. You carry stability. You are not controlled by atmospheres. You carry the authority to change them. And when you really understand this, you'll stop trying to fit in with environments that are beneath your calling. You'll stop conforming just to keep peace. You'll stop shrinking just to avoid confrontation. Because thermostats don't shrink, they reset everything around them. They come in hot with clarity, consistency, and conviction. They don't match chaos. They silence it. They don't entertain confusion. They bring structure and strategy. When everything feels like it's spinning out of control, your presence alone can bring alignment back to the room. That's how strong your influence is. You weren't made to react to gossip. You were made to introduce wisdom. You weren't created to adjust to emotional instability. You were born to walk in unwavering peace. You don't mirror offense. You reflect maturity. You don't echo anxiety. You carry stillness, certainty, substance. And that's rare. That's bold. That's powerful. Most people live on edge because they are slaves to the emotional climate. But you are free. And because you are free, you make others feel safe enough to be free too. Don't let the immaturity of others pull you out of position. Don't let environments with no vision blur your focus. Don't let dead atmospheres tell you who you are. You breathe life into them. You speak fire into cold spaces. You bring rhythm where there's been noise. You don't need to raise your voice. Your presence speaks louder than volume. Because what you carry isn't just passion, it's power. Not hype, heat, not reaction, revelation. And that heat is contagious. When others are swayed by what's happening around them, you hold the line. You keep the focus. You keep the standard high, the temperature holy, and the presence strong. Because what you carry is rooted. It's solid. It's tested. And that makes you immovable in a world full of shifting emotions. That's why storms don't break you. They reveal you. You don't just survive the environment, you set it. You don't need a crown to carry authority. You don't need a platform to walk in power. When God assigns you, no man can disqualify you. You don't walk in permission. You walk in presence. And presence carries weight that can't be explained but cannot be denied. Too many people are waiting to be approved by the very systems they were born to overturn. They keep shrinking themselves down, waiting on permission to step into rooms, waiting on applause to validate their voice, waiting on some person in power to give them a green light. But what if I told you, you've already been released, you've already been authorized, you've already been anointed to move, to speak, to lead, to shift atmospheres. And you don't need a title to do it. You carry truth that overrides tradition. When you walk in, something shifts. Not because people gave you permission, but because God gave you presence. And that presence disturbs the predictable. That presence carries oil that breaks the mold. That presence walks in rooms where protocols rule and quietly turns the whole table over without raising a voice. Because your influence isn't built on popularity, it's built on authority. And here's the truth. Permission is optional, but authority is undeniable. Authority doesn't need credentials to show up. It doesn't ask for confirmation from insecure gatekeepers. It doesn't knock timidly on doors it was called to own. Authority doesn't wait for acceptance, it makes impact. And when you know you carry authority, you stop asking for seats at tables that were never designed to feed your purpose. That's why you're a threat. That's why resistance rises when you start to step forward. That's why people try to downplay your gift or minimize your influence. It's not because you're too loud, it's because what you carry is too powerful to be controlled. You bring change they can't manage. You speak truth they can't spin. You walk in fire they can't replicate. And deep down they know it, because when someone walks in real authority, the atmosphere testifies before they even open their mouth. You've been assigned to move without fear, to speak without apology, to lead without waiting for a nod of approval. You carry something that wasn't handed to you by man. It was downloaded into your spirit by heaven. That means it can't be voted on, diluted, or taken back. It's yours. And you've got to walk in it, not one day, not when it's convenient, not when you finally get noticed, but now. Your assignment is bigger than your comfort zone. You weren't chosen to play it safe. You weren't designed to blend in or to play politics with purpose. You're not here to maintain the status quo. You're here to break it. And that means stepping into spaces where no one invited you and owning the moment anyway, not because you're arrogant, but because you're aware. Aware of what you carry, aware of who sent you, aware of what's at stake when you stay silent. You don't need a mic to speak with power. Your very walk commands attention. Your presence challenges laziness. Your excellence exposes mediocrity. Your faith stirs the atmosphere. People feel you before they understand you. That's what happens when you don't wait for permission. You show up in purpose. The oil on your life didn't come cheap. It came through fire, through crushing, through nights of prayer and days of pressure. And now that you carry it, you don't need anyone's confirmation to pour it out. The reason you feel out of place in certain environments isn't because something's wrong with you. It's because you were never designed to fit where you were born to shift. You're not weird. You're not too much. You're a mold breaker. And mold breakers don't follow blueprints. They become the blueprint. You weren't created to look like everybody else. You weren't designed to walk the path of comfort, compromise, or conformity. That tension you feel when you're in spaces that lack vision, power, or purpose, that's not a burden, that's your indicator. It's heaven reminding you that you're not supposed to match what's around you. You were sent to stand out, to stand firm, and to bring transformation where mediocrity has been reigning too long. Most people were taught how to adapt. They were told to color inside the lines, to follow what's safe, to keep their heads down, and not make waves. But you were born to be the wave. You were born to shift the standard, to raise the temperature, to carry something that others are too scared to touch. And because of that, you're not going to fit in rooms that worship comfort over calling. You're not going to be accepted in circles that value routine more than revelation. You are too called to be common. You were made to break the mold of what's been expected. You were born to interrupt patterns of fear, silence, complacency, and generational bondage. And when you carry that kind of assignment, don't expect people to celebrate you. Expect resistance. Expect misunderstanding. Expect silence when you need support. Because mold breakers aren't always recognized in real time, they're remembered in legacy. You see, when you start walking in your authentic calling, people who are still hiding in imitation will feel exposed. Your presence alone convicts those who have settled. Your courage stirs the apathy of those who have grown numb. You remind them of the risk they refuse to take, of the fire they let burn out. And instead of honoring the call on your life, they'll try to shrink it. They'll try to label it as too much, too bold, too intense. But don't shrink. Don't apologize. Don't filter your flame just because they haven't seen it before. What you carry has never been done before because you've never existed before. There's a reason your voice doesn't echo. It's because you weren't sent to echo. You were sent to establish. You were called to introduce a new sound, a new perspective, a new standard. You were born to be the first, the bold one, the trailblazer that says, we don't have to do it like it's always been done. You walk into rooms and carry reform in your very presence. That's why systems push back. That's why comfort zones feel unbearable. Because your calling agitates what's been asleep. You weren't meant to imitate the culture. You were made to elevate it. And sometimes that means walking alone for a while. That means carrying the weight of purpose when others are carrying popularity. That means being misunderstood for the sake of being marked. But the mold doesn't break quietly. It cracks under pressure. It shatters with resistance. And when it does, what emerges is purpose refined by fire. You're not here to meet expectations. You're here to shift generations. You're not built to mimic old systems. You were crafted to birth new ones. So let them talk. Let them question. Let them doubt. Because in the end, when the smoke clears and the dust settles, the mold will be broken. And you'll still be standing, blazing a trail no one else was bold enough to create. Your voice isn't just sound, it's a signal. Your steps aren't just movement, they're messages. And when you truly understand what you carry, you won't waste your words, and you won't walk without intention. Because your voice is a weapon, and your walk is a sermon the world can't ignore. Too often, people think power comes from noise, from being the loudest, the flashiest, the most seen. But authority doesn't require a microphone, a stage, or a spotlight. Real authority speaks even when you're silent. And you, yes you, carry a voice that doesn't just communicate, it confronts. You don't speak just to fill space, you speak to shift it. You don't walk just to move forward. You walk to carry something forward. There's weight in your words and fire in your steps. Your voice isn't meant to blend in with background noise. It's not designed to echo what everyone else is already saying. It's not programmed for safe, shallow sound bites. Your voice is disruptive, sharp, anointed, and distinct. It's been forged in prayer, refined in the furnace of your trials, and filled with truth that breaks through confusion. When you speak, heaven leans in and hell backs up. When you declare what God placed inside of you, strongholds tremble, atmospheres align, and chains start to loosen. But it's not just what you say, it's how you live. Because your life is preaching long before your lips do. Your walk tells a story of battles survived, of fires endured, of valleys crossed and victories claimed. Your presence is prophetic. The way you carry yourself, the way you stand firm when others bow to pressure, the way you stay rooted when others run, it's all speaking. Every choice, every stand, every sacrifice is shouting truth in a world starved for authenticity. People may not always hear your voice, but they will always feel your walk. You walk into a room and conviction follows. You walk into the workplace and integrity shows up. You walk into a broken situation and restoration starts stirring. That's the weight of who you are. Not because of status or education or followers, but because you've been formed in fire. You've walked through what others avoided. You've stayed quiet when gossip was loud. You've shown up when quitting would have been easier. And all of that adds weight to your walk. You carry a message that goes beyond motivation. It's revelation. You don't just inspire, you ignite. You don't just speak to encourage, you speak to equip. Your words build bridges where there were walls. They break cycles where there was silence. They release freedom where fear was holding the mic. That's not natural talent. That's divine assignment. That's not charisma. That's the residue of calling. And here's what's powerful. You don't even have to say much. Sometimes your silence is louder than shouting. Sometimes your quiet obedience wrecks the atmosphere more than a sermon. Because when you carry God's presence, your walk drips with purpose. Your decisions carry thunder. Your stand becomes a signpost to those watching. You don't have to announce what you carry. It announces itself. People are watching even when they say nothing. They feel the difference even if they can't explain it. They sense the weight, even if they don't understand the source. And that's the beauty of divine influence. You don't have to force it, just walk in it. You don't have to prove your worth, just release your voice. You don't have to beg for acceptance, just live the message you were born to carry. This is not the season to play it safe. This is not the hour to hold your breath, keep your head down, or wait for a more convenient moment. The assignment on your life is urgent, it's weighty, and it demands bold action right now. You weren't created to sit on the sidelines, watching others carry torches you were born to light. You weren't called to sit silently in rooms where your voice was meant to shift the direction. You weren't equipped with fire just to keep warm. You were lit to ignite. There's something inside you that heaven expects you to release, and you can't delay, debate, or defer it anymore. The assignment on your life is too heavy to treat lightly. There are things only you can break. There are people only you can reach. There are atmospheres only you can shift. And every time you hesitate, someone stays bound. Every time you shrink, a room stays dark. Every time you let fear mute you, heaven's echo in the earth is silenced. That's how critical your obedience is. You are carrying something that this generation cannot afford to lose. This assignment isn't built on convenience, it's built on conviction. It won't always make sense. It won't always feel comfortable. Sometimes it will feel lonely, misunderstood, even resisted. But when heaven marks you, comfort is no longer your compass, calling is. And calling will take you into unfamiliar places, stretch you beyond your logic, and push you past every excuse your fear wants to feed you. You've prayed for impact, but impact requires motion. You've prayed for purpose, but purpose requires sacrifice. You've asked God to use you, and now He's answering. Not through lightning bolts or loud signs, but through an internal nudge to move, to speak, to go, to act. That stirring in your spirit, that urgency in your heart. That's the call of heaven saying, the time is now. There is no perfect moment. There is only obedience or delay. Boldness doesn't mean the fear disappears. It means you move in spite of it. It means you step even when your knees shake. It means you speak even when your voice cracks. It means you trust the God who sent you more than the comfort of staying hidden. Because what's on your life was never meant to be stored. It was meant to be poured. And yes, the weight of it is real. The warfare is real. The moments of doubt are real. But so is the grace. So is the backing of heaven. So is the anointing that rests on you like fire in your bones. You've got backup. You've got oil. You've got legacy in your lungs and destiny in your steps. You weren't chosen because you're perfect. You were chosen because you're positioned. You were placed on this earth at this time in this generation to break what others tolerated, to heal what others ignored, to build what others never dreamed possible. You can't stay silent when your voice was meant to uproot lies. You can't keep walking in circles when your steps were meant to chart new territory. You can't keep hiding behind one day when heaven is shouting today. The world doesn't need more cautious voices. It needs consecrated ones. Ones that move mountains. Ones that shake nations. Ones that refuse to blend in when they were anointed to blaze trails. You've been processed for this. Crushed for this. Refined for this. The fire you've been through wasn't to destroy you, it was to forge you.